What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing another video. Today, we finally got episode 1 of Dino Supercharge for Power Rangers, obviously. Power Rangers episode 1 of the show. This is the 23rd season, for those who do not know, and it was a good episode. The episode is entitled When Evil Stirs. Really cool episode. It starts off with a flashback, and it's really nice. It does help us, connect things over, for those that have not been familiar with, Dino Charge, it definitely is a refresher at the beginning, and it takes up a good minute or so, which is good. It's not too long, but it's just long enough to give people that maybe hadn't seen Dino Charge a chance to see what happened there and be able to just come right into it and not be too lost. Obviously, it would be good if you watched it, but you get the point. Anyway, as I said, it starts off with that little bit of a flashback. Tyler reminiscing, talking about things, and thinking about all that stuff. And you can tell that he definitely wishes he were still a ranger at this time. And at this moment, he doesn't know that he'll need to be. So then this is followed by them showing the same way, showing things as they ended in the very last episode of Dino Charge, where we see the sneak peek at our new lead villain for the for this season, which we find out is going to be known as Snide as well as Heckle. Now I'll get into that in a little bit more in detail. We also then, following this little sneak peek that we saw in the past, get to see a new opening. Now, the theme itself is, for the most part, the same. I mean, it sounds a little different. I mean, the words are all identical and all that. They didn't, change it just to factor in the fact that now, instead of it saying Dino Charge, they say Dino Supercharge. They don't change that. But there's something about that I feel like it's different in how it sounds. Visually, it's definitely very different. They also show off things that we have not seen yet in the show, so such as the super form for Tyler. He also has a different haircut in the opening, which is going to be interesting, and he's the only one that has that new haircut. We do also get to see Heckle/Snide, so that is something cool. That they already have that factored in. There's one or two other small things that they factored in already, as well as the special forms with his powered up form for his red powered up form, which is cool. And they definitely zoom in a lot more on their heads, which is a little bit different. But it's a really good opening that looks really nice now, and it definitely draws upon, this is a bigger season. This is one that's definitely going to be big, different, and it's going to, it's going to keep a lot of what we already know, but expand and really show more of what we want to see. And it looks great. It looks really, really great. So then following that, we see that whole entire incident, and we see that, Snide appears out of the, the prison cell that Heckle was supposedly trapped in, and the monsters are like, "Hey, I thought Heckle was in there. Who are you?" And so all the monsters are still in their jail cells. So none of them really got destroyed. The only thing that really did get destroyed technically was Sledge. Now, for all we know, and what I'm guessing might happen towards the end, is that Sledge might return in some way. Don't hold me to that. It could, maybe he won't. But at the same time, I kind of feel like he probably will towards the end. Anyway, so at this point, we do see that, monsters like Fury are still there. Poisandra is still there. Wrench is still there. Curio, we have no idea what the heck happened to him. I mean, he might have been there, but for what we saw, we have no idea if he was even there. For those that are actually curious about Curio. Which there is definitely a little bit of a fan base of people like, that character. Anyway, so they're all talking, and Heckle is mentioning this whole entire aspect of, let's let the monsters out of their cells, and then he shows how he really is a threat, and there's this monster that wants out of the base, and he wants to escape, and yet he gets actually destroyed, which, obviously shows that, don't mess with Heckle/Snide. We also find out that when Heckle is living as Heckle, Snide will exist in a watch, which basically I'm guessing is meant to act as both an actual watch and also as a way to make it so that it's something that can be very hidden, so that if he wanted to hide from someone, he could just as easily like cover the watch and make it look like a regular watch rather than having it act as a communicator between the two bodies. Which is very cool, and it's a very smart tactic, but clearly there is some connection, but they do not get along perfectly, as you can tell so far. So anyway, that's all happening, and we also get to see Beevil and the Vampiria, I think it is, from Mystic Force, and Beevil from Ninja Storm. So they make their cameo again. This time we actually see them out of their cells, so it's a lot easier to see them, especially the Beevil one. But they both are a lot more visually seen, and it seems that I guess they wanted to have those two monsters do their cameo again, which is cool. Anyway, Heckle destroys the monster, and then we see Coda. Now Coda apparently got mail, and this mail is from two people. Which two people? Chase and Shelby. Apparently Shelby is away going to college and getting back into school since she's been working at a cafe and everything like that, and now with the dinosaur stuff she's able to go back to doing her normal stuff. Chase, on the other hand, is back in New Zealand enjoying himself and living his life. And the only cast members that are still at the cafe are Kendall, Ivan, and Coda, which makes a lot of sense since Ivan and Coda, are from the past, and Kendall kind of is like one of the heads of the museum. So, those three would make sense to be in the same place together. The other four, are living their lives, and that was the whole entire point of this, was that Sledge was supposedly gone, and now they can live their lives, the other four members. So, anyway, that all happens, and then we see Shelby at the school, and she is, and she's excited when... Oh, no, that's not it. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, sorry. What I meant to say was... Then we see that apparently, they're too busy at the cafe, and Kendall wants to hire another employee or waiter at the museum cafe or whatever. So, who is going to be hired? Well, it's none other than Heckle. Now, for us, we know that Heckle is obviously a bad guy. He's evil. He's associated with all this, and he's supposedly going to be. He's basically like the leader of the villains in this case. So clearly, not great. But as we know, Heckle has a human form, Heckle is the human form, so he has that advantage. So his big thing is that he wants to stay hidden and anonymous to the Rangers, so that they don't know that he is connected to Snide. And what I'm assuming from this is that Snide requires energy, while Heckle, he could exist as Heckle for pretty much as long as he wants. Don't hold me to that, but that's what I kind of am going with, because you don't see him reacting where he's changing into Snide, at least so far. Could be wrong. Maybe there is a time limit on how long he can say Heckle. We'll see. Anyway, that's all happening, and he tries to, he speaks to Kendall, and Kendall remembers him because he saved her back during, I think it was the 19th episode or something like that. It was either the 19th or the 18th episode. I want to say it was the 19th episode. Anyway, that all happened, and so he's hired, and that's all great for him. And then she goes away to go speak to some people, and he ends up finding out where Shelby and Chase are. He's in New Zealand, and she's in she's going to a college or whatever. So he knows where they are, and then he manages to tell all the other monsters where to go. Well, in this case, it's one monster. Which monster? One that he was in the first episode of Dino Charge, and he's been in a few he was in at least one other episode for Dino Charge, and now he's in the first episode of Dino Supercharge. Funny thing, right? So, in this case, what happens is that Ice Age chooses then to go to where Shelby is, and Shelby actually finds a trilobite fossil, and she's like more intrigued about that than the school that she's supposedly going to. So clearly that doesn't go over very well in that. So clearly she's not very happy with having to go back to school. Then we see who is it? Chase, who's back in New Zealand. He's hitting on some girls or whatever, and he gets frozen over by Ice Age. Then we see Riley, who's back at his house where his parents were on the barn, and he's doing his normal chores and all that. And so clearly, and he's not necessarily hating it, but he's not loving it. So and he gets frozen over. Then we find out that Tyler, he's still on the move, looking for his father and all that. And suddenly, what happens is that we see that he gets a flat tire because he's using that Jeep that he was using before. And so suddenly, when he goes out to look, there's like icicles in the tire, and so he's like, "Wait, what?" So then he calls up Kendall, and he's like, "Hey, Kendall, this may sound really odd." And then at that point, he gets zapped by Ice Age, or at least that's what we assume at this point. So that's all happening, and the message is cut out. So Kendall receives the message, but it's only part of the message. So at that point, we then see the Ranger. We then see Kendall going into the base and talking to Ivan and Coda, and we hear about how she had ordered a part of a message, and they want to go look and try to find Tyler, since they can trace where he was probably located last based on where his communicator was. So they want to use that knowledge to pinpoint where he most likely would be. So at that point, what happens is that they end up going to search for Tyler, and they find the location and everything, and they start searching around, and Ivan and Kendall end up finding the car, which the car is frozen over, and they don't see Tyler anywhere, so they're kind of confused. At that point, Ice Age freezes Kendall and Ivan over in some ice, and then Coda hears the attack and then goes in search of the Kendall and Ivan. When he finally comes to find them, he sees that they're frozen over, and he sees Ice Age. So then, being smart, he actually begins to fight, and he manages to somehow do something very unique, which is that, so he finds this rock, he grabs the rock, and then he has a sweatshirt on or whatever. And what happens is that when Ice Age tries to freeze him over, he manages to only freeze over the sweatshirt and the rock that he was holding on to. And then Coda manages to escape. Very interesting. Obviously, in reality, that probably would never happen, but somehow he manages to do it. So at that point, Coda is assumed to be the only Ranger who is left, and Coda is not very smart when it comes to technology, and he doesn't know where Shelby or Riley or Chase is. So he basically is thought to be left alone. But suddenly, when he's searching around trying to figure out stuff on the computer and all that, he starts to hear a noise coming from the cave entrance, and he's worried that some monster may have snuck in. But then suddenly, who slides down is none other than Tyler, who somehow manages to escape. Don't ask us how. Doesn't show us how. We have no idea how, but it happens. So Tyler appears in front of Coda, and they both begin to talk to each other about things, and Coda explains his past. Now, they do show the whole entire flashback that they showed. I think it was the third or fourth episode of Dino Charge for Coda, and how he got frozen over and how he exists in this time period. But they expand upon it about how Kendall had developed this Dino Charge known as the Blaze, the Dino Charger, the Blaze Dino Charger, which is this charger that can burn ice, and that was how they managed to defrost Coda when he was frozen over for several 100 years or so. So that was explained there, and because of this, he's had this constant fear of ice. So because he doesn't like the thought of being frozen over and all that, and so it's always bothered him. So at that point, they then realize that maybe they could figure out a way to get out of this. And what happens is that Tyler says, "Look, Coda, the only way that I think that we'll be able to do this is if you have to be willing to be frozen over." And he freaks out a little bit, of course, because he doesn't like ice. And then he says, "But you need to show me how you escape." And so the thing is that they technically do, and so that's an interesting point. So then they go and they hear that Ice Age is in the town or whatever. So they go in search of Ice Age. They then morph in front of him, and they look like they're about to start fighting and everything. And then Ice Age freezes them over. At that point, Ice Age brings all 7 Rangers to Snide, and so. At that point, Snide is very happy to see that 7 of the Rangers have been captured. Obviously there's no Prince Philip, and so he has 7 of 8. But that's not too bad. So seeing that 2 of the Rangers in particular have been morphed, he can assume that they most likely have their energems, which is a good, a logical. Reasonable response. So he immediately thinks, okay, you know what? Let's defrost those 2, and or at least destroy them. So he uses a special attack that allows him to defrost them. And instead of the Rangers coming out, being all destroyed and all that, what's left is just 2 suits. So at that point, they're like, "Wait, you only got the suits? What the heck happened?" And so the thing is that obviously Tyler and Coda managed to escape. That one's a little bit harder to imagine how they could have escaped with such it takes their whole body, but it's a kids show and there's not too much to ask there. I mean, I would like to know, but I have no idea, and I'm sure it's complete a joke. It's a complete joke, Anyway. That all happens, and then suddenly Coda and Tyler begin to use the Dino Blaze Charger to defrost all 5 of the other Rangers, and they then Tyler hands each of the Rangers their energems, and they all begin to morph together, all 7 Rangers. So it's a really cool moment. And then you see Ice Age and Snide and the Vivixes fighting the Rangers, which is very cool. And it's nice to see it after not having this hiatus for a little while. So that all happens, and they begin to fight them. They use their Dino Steel mode as well, and eventually, Snide is almost ready to destroy Tyler when suddenly. His amount of energy has depleted to the point where he has to return to his form as Heko, so he decides to escape because he doesn't want the Rangers to know his human identity, because he wants to use that to his advantage. So he has to escape at that point. So then at that point, Ice Age gets destroyed by the Dino Spike, Kendall's special attack and Ivan's special attack, and then they end up using the Magna Beams, which is a huge deal, because they're like, wait, the Magna Beams still work? They're still able to make the monsters big? And they're obviously surprised, which makes a lot of sense, because it's like, whoa, I thought that, the ship must have been destroyed and everything, so clearly the ship must still be intact. They don't really know much else, but they know that the ship must be intact. That much is clear. So at that point, Ice Age gets big, and then we see the Plesiocharge Megazord get summoned, and it also combines with the Ankylozord and the T-Rex Zord follows. They also use their supercharged forms, the special armor with the battery look on them, and that's all very cool. And they began to attack it, and they use the the galactic blast and all that, and managed to, in the end, destroy Ice Age. Or at least for now. I mean, Ice Age seems to just be a reoccurring monster that just seems to show up so often. Don't ask me why. Just they wanted to keep him in a bunch of times. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Anyway, that all happens. It's pretty much a happy ending for them because they're able to just say, okay, Ice Age was destroyed. Kota has conquered his fear for the most part, and that is when Kendall actually talks to him and says, like, I know that you had a huge fear, and I'm glad that you managed to conquer your fear and were willing to, save us from being frozen over and all that, and risking your lives. And so she was very happy with him, and he says this kind of sappy thing, but it makes sense for the show, which is that it's like, yeah, well, I've learned that my biggest fear isn't ice, it's really just losing all of you, my new family. And it's a little sappy, but it works. It's fitting. It's very fitting. Anyway, that all happens, and then because of the fact that this is a new season and they want to show people like all the Rangers, Prince Philip appears before us as well, and then all the Rangers basically go over what they have to accomplish, like in other words, getting the Aqua Energem and the Silver Energem plus Rangers if possible or whatever, and determining all that. So clearly we know that that's the plan for them at least, and determining where the Rangers would be and the Energems would be. So they have to. So that's obviously their big goal. And overall, I would say that this is a really interesting season so far. First episode obviously, so it's pretty early to really judge, but really good. Obviously, I just wanted to say a little thing about Snide and Heckle, especially for those that haven't already made the connection. Heckle and Snide kind of resemble Mercer and Mesagog from Dino Thunder. Only there's a couple of big differences. First of all, Mesagog and Mercer, they didn't have much of a connection to each other than, they switched back and forth, but like, they weren't on the same side. They both hated each other. And not just hate each other, but like, Mercer was technically good, and Mesagog was completely evil. So that's something to note. Not to mention the fact that, Mercer had a child while Mesagog doesn't have, to our knowledge, and just in general, Heckle probably does not have a child. So there isn't that element of like the Ranger being a descendant of Heckle or something like that. That doesn't exist. But it should be. But that's interesting. I am curious more about the energy component and how things are going to develop. It's a really cool element, having the two personalities and that they're doing that again. But this time it's different since they're both on the same side, but they don't get along perfectly, which is good. There has to be some resistance, which is interesting, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they're going to go the route of turning Heckle good and having him separate from Snide, and then having a big fight that way. They could do that. They could. Don't know yet. We'll see. But just in general, really, really great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have watched it yourself, please tell me in the comments what you thought about it. What was your favorite moment, and what are you hyped for the most this season? And just in general, what was your favorite moment in this episode that really stood out to you and makes you more and more excited to see what they're going to do in the next episode and the episode after that, and so on and so forth. Just tell me all that in the comments, guys. Again, I am Crazy Samurai 71. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my playlist for Power Rangers Dino Charge if you have the chance, and check out all my other Power Rangers content. I'm also doing a whole bunch of other stuff. I have a reaction series going on. This is I'm doing my third reaction series, which it's going strong, and I hope you guys enjoy that too. But please tell me everything in the comments. Hope you enjoy everything, and check out the channel, guys. So until then, guys, please subscribe and like and everything, and I'll see you guys next time. So bye guys.